first with like bands like Black Sabbath and Motorhead, and then came more like bands like Hellhammer and more like violent bands like Venom, and also a lot of hardcore influence, which is like Discharge, GBH, a lot of Finland bands. It was like a whole mix of like the underground music at that time.
Brazil got death metal bands there. It's like a, you know, it's kind of surprising, you know, because most of all death metal bands were coming from Europe, you know, for more grindcore stuff, and you had more basic death metal, which was coming from Florida, which Death was, and Morbid Angel were kind of their first ones, you know.
Fast drumming, real crunchy guitars, and heavy vocals, you know. Pretty much, you know, the vocals and the lyrical content have a lot to do with the death metal sound. You know, there's bands that are grindcore that, you know, have a little different sound, but some people might say they're death metal. So it's basically all in the listeners. You know, like Jack said, you might consider something death metal, another person might not. But as for everybody out there, we're death metal. Grindcore is a little more of like a hardcore edge to it. You know, they sing a little bit more about politically involved lyrics and things like that. They really don't dwell on horror or anything like that, or Satanism. So I think, you know, that pretty much separates the two.
Well, it's a real extreme music, and it's a mix of like hardcore music, like which is like real like adrenaline, and with some lyrics which like have a lot to do with violence and things like that, things that we live in Brazil.
It's energetic music. Gets the adrenaline flowing. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. It's something. If you go to most concerts, there's nothing to do. Come here, you can run around, slam against people, have the best time of your life. Entombed. It's a heavy band. Sepultura. Obituary.
The problem happening now is there's a lot of bands in the death metal scene. I mean, it's overpopulated. And the problem we're having now is a lot of them aren't having their own original sound, which is hurting the name for everyone else. So I think what needs to happen is the good ones need to be sorted out, and they need to rise up to the top, and then I think things will get, you know, pretty much underway. I think things will be a lot better once that happens. It's
an abundant amount of bands right now because death metal is growing. Most of the bands will weed themselves out after a while, and the more established bands will stick around.
We're trying to expand into classical fields too. We're trying to combine death metal with classical feeling to get that more spiritual, divine feeling in the music.
In Sweden, you know, death metal is starting to get, you know, the same publicity as, you know, that sort of music, and it's really great. It's been, you know, growing bigger and bigger, and yeah, stepping up from underground scene, so it's cool.
People were selling 10,000 records, now they're selling 100,000 records. Sepultura is selling 400,000 records. I mean, it's growing by leaps and bounds. They're not stopping it, so they might as well just try to, you know, try to at least understand it.
People used to think that death metal is just fairless, noisy music, you know, and all the talentless musicians were all in that music. They were kind of, you know, putting all, anyway, you know what I mean? People which can't really play technical or something like that. But now it's not there anymore because you can hear what's going on, you know. You have great production and good budget for it.
It's just, you know, a lot of power involved in these type of vocals, and a lot of people, they don't think there's too much talent in it, you know. They just kind of think that people are, you know, just barking vocals out or whatever, not even basically singing any words. But I do try to get every single lyric I write into my my singing style, so we try to keep it up. Once everybody gets their own style, I think, you know, death metal will definitely be an established form of music that people will know and grow to love.
You're death metal, then you're most influenced by basic stuff. So
yeah, 2 years ago, death metal was always talking about real gory things.
Gory stuff, you know.
Blood all over, guts all over, kill everybody. Now we're more mature in what we do.
We write brutal stuff, but we try to put a lot of time and stuff into it. And like I said, we usually deal mostly all in fact, or subjects that are based on fact, or have some theory behind them. And we actually go to the library and research our our lyrical content.
Just think up the lyrics just like Stephen King or Clive Barker or any other horror novelist or anybody else would do, except I shorten it and I go right to the point instead of putting so much fill in the blanks, I just go right to the point with the lyrics, and it's up front and brutal for everybody.
It does reflect something, and what it reflects, I think, is a sort of nihilistic despair. You're attacking convention, you're attacking...
Right now, people think that death metal is like just talk about Satan and things like that, but it's kind of lame.
We aren't devil worshippers or nothing like that. Nothing comes before us, no God. And if we worship Satan, that would be putting ourselves before a God, or putting a God before ourselves, and that's not right in our viewpoint.
Anything I've written about satanic lyrics is make-believe, and I don't have a problem with telling kids that, because maybe that'll save a problem in the long run, Now I'm just saying enjoy it for what it is, because that's all it is.
It's all symbolism. It's everything represents something, and the drinking of blood is representing drinking life. It's just like the Catholic religion, which I'm somewhat familiar with. It has so many things that are symbolistic. It's all these names mean something, and it's not to be taken literally.
When I read the lyrics, what I see is a lot of anger. They also exhibit a hopelessness. They don't see hope. There's no hope in those songs. And also, there is no desire to change things, more accepting of what they see. In a way, they are depressing.
What do you think is the appeal of this, speed, really hard thrash death metal music?
It's a type of thing where, it's an aggression thing. I mean, that's what we get off on it from, I mean, I like a lot of other kinds of music, but what I like to play is, straight ahead, really powerful, fast, aggressive style of music.
Why do you guys like death metal?
It's energetic. Aggression release. Aggression release.
It's more of an expression when they are feeling angry, when they are feeling sad, when they are feeling hostile, that the music which shows those kind of feelings, that they listen to that because it mirrors their emotions. I doubt very much whether it can cause violence. And if it does cause violence in some people or some young people, then I would say that maybe those young people were feeling violent anyway, for other reasons.
Adolescence, man. That one word alone should tell you why they're into the music. Parents don't like it, so kids love it.
If parents start reading some of this stuff, then they're going to get upset, and time and again this has happened. So that music has a particular force in our society that leads people to get very excited and very upset over this. It seems as if it can be a mysterious force debauching the minds of young people. Most of this, quite frankly, is nonsense. Most of it is nonsense. It is very easy to target in upon particular groups and attack them and say, oh, this is bad, oh, this is leading to moral decay, and so on. But there's very, very little proof for this. You're always going to find one or two cases of people drugged out, reading pornographic literature, whether violent or sexual, and listening to this kind of nonsense. And you can hold them up as an example, but one or two cases out of millions of people doesn't really amount to very much.
There's a lot of evidence that that all the negative things in the environment, let's say in bad neighborhood, drugs being available, all these kind of things, this kind of music, that they only become dangerous and they only affect those youngsters who have not a good, warm, close relationship with their parents, who feel isolated from their parents, isolated from any caring adults, and therefore they feel very lonely, and they do not know where to get help.
What do you tell your kids? Hey, you can't listen to that, you know, by looking at a cover. Hold on a minute. See, because first of all, you have teachers, you have parents, you have all these authority figures with kids saying, hey, you can't do this and you can't do that. And the kids, all they want to do, man, they go in their room, they pop the tapes in, and they just, you know, they get as brutal as they can just to piss everyone off. And if the parents would sit down and say, all right, you want to listen to this, you really care about listening to this, let me see why. Let me read the lyrics, let me listen to it with you, man. But they don't ever do that, you know, they just automatically, as soon as they see a cover, that's it. You know, I don't like that cover, you're not listening to it. The kid's going to be like, you know, the hell with you, I'm going to listen to it twice as much, you know.
You got to give the child freedom to explore what he wants. I mean, you know, the more you tell someone no, the more they're going to want to do it.
And why does it appeal? Because young men are trying to work out their masculinity and their independence. And they like violence, and they like things that are definite and clear, and if they don't find it in one source, they'll go to something else. Now, this is catharsis. And when I say catharsis, it is a release. When it begins to program, that's more worrisome. But I simply do not believe that there is evidence to suggest that music, by and large, does this. I am much more fearful of visual images because we are visually oriented. And so I worry more about the slasher movies than I do, or about superbly made thrillers which have a pornographic element like Silence of the Lambs. That's so well made. Than I do about this stuff, which frankly isn't very well made. Television has always been aware of the fact that it goes into people's homes and that they don't pay for it in a direct sense, and so it really ought not to offend people so brutally. And I think TV is quite right. Television executives have to be very careful about what they put in the air and what they allow into our homes. So that concern is fair. When you mix the music with the visuals, then you've got a very potent mix, and that can leave imprints in our minds. And so you've got to be concerned about that.
Scotty
I'll
rules,
go to
man.
Morrisound.
Best kick drum band in the world.
Yeah, Scotty's great.
It turned into such a big thing. You know, it started with the first Obituary and then Atheist, and then Sepultura went, and then I mean just.
So Scotty was still going to school whenever. Yeah, he was still going to school.
He was still
like $5 an hour when he did our demo and stuff.
Then he became like Mr.
Now he's
Producer.
like Joe Producer now. He's
great guy.
Very cool guy.
Super
One of the nicest guys.
Everyone will tell you that. I've never heard anyone say anything bad about him. Great studio. It's just a great place.
Seattle's got that, whatever, their new Renaissance, whatever.
Yeah.
And Florida's got death metal, and New York City's got serious hardcore, and you know, it's different all around the country, and people are just starting to mix together, so there's more people of each at shows.
You have your own style, you'll stand out, even if you go to Morrisound.
I mean, the reason for going to Morrisound is just because it's the best studio in the world for this type of music, and there's no one better than Scott Burns to produce records, you know. On a personal basis and on a business level, he's the greatest producer on earth as far as I'm concerned, and as for this band, I don't think we're ever going to record anywhere else. So, I mean, to all those people that say it's trendy to record at Morrisound, they're basically they just have no knowledge of what's there.
Yeah, that's right. Florida has been the mecca for death metal, and especially with guru Scott Burns, who we've got right now on the line via the telephone from Tampa, Florida. Hi, Scott. How are you doing?
Good, Teresa. How are you?
Thanks for being on the show today. A lot of people know about you, a lot of death metal fans, and don't know your work, and I wanted to know what you're producing right now. Who are you working with?
Well, we just finished Obituary, and still working on the new Deicide album.
Oh yeah, how does that sounding?
It's pretty brutal. Should be a killer record.
How's the production on it? Has it been improving?
Yeah, I think it should sound better than the first one. You know, Glenn's changed his vocal style some. It's a little lower, a little heavier. The songs are a little faster. Steve blasts more. It should be really good.
Faster, huh? Okay, Scott, what I want to know is, how do you think death metal came into being? Where do you think it came out of, and how do you see it changing in the next couple of years?
I don't know. It probably came from bands like Motorhead and Venom and stuff that was on the fringe of metal, you know, back in, you know, later 70s, beginning of the early 80s.
But why? Why did it go in, you know, such a more brutal route?
I don't know. I just think, you know, ever since Elvis or whatever, kids always want something a little more and a little more. And, you know, I mean, this is, you know, based on metal, and just like Sabbath, how they were, you know, extreme band at their time. You know, I mean, things just, you know, I mean, even Metallica was extreme for their time when they first came out, and I think as things progress on, just things become more extreme, and, you know, people look for something more over the top each time, and death metal happens to be it right now.
So what's going to top death metal? I mean, can you think of something?
Death metal, it's going to top polka metal. I don't know, accordions and I don't know what it'll top. It'll be, you know, I'm sure it'll refine itself, and but who knows? I mean, there'll be some other form of extreme music, and maybe it won't be metal for a while. Maybe it'll go back to some type of alternative punk or hardcore scene, and then, you know, it'll revert to metal again. I mean, I think the scene might change or whatever. I mean, industrial types of music and metal seem to be melting right now. Bands like Godflesh and stuff like that, and, you know, Ministries tended to become more metal. Maybe that'll take a, you know, form.
A route.
Yeah.
Scott, what do you think about people that criticize death metal? I'm not talking about, you know, a parent who knows nothing about the music and just catches on to the lyrics one day and realizes what they're saying, but people that are in the music industry and may say, they may be afraid that, you know, sometimes kids who are already prone to violence may go over the top with, you know, some of these lyrics or their involvement with the bands. Do you think that at all, or and what do you think about those criticisms?
I think it's probably, you know, not so true, because I think, you know, it's a healthy thing. Kids just want, you know, some type of outlet. You know, I mean, we're all looking for something, and, you know, it releases a little aggression, and it's a safe way to do it. I mean, I think kids that are have problems would have problems whether they listen to death metal or not. I mean, if you were, you know, I mean, it's just like person who has a dependency problem with drugs or alcohol. I mean, take it to another thing with music. I mean, just that person has a problem, and I don't think you can say that music causes anything. I mean, some things may be related to it, but it's the person that has the problem. It's not the music, and I mean, nobody forced him to listen to a record or whatever he may say.
Okay, Scott. Scott, I'm going to have to go now. I could chat with you for a few minutes longer, but we're out of time here.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, Teresa.
Keep working on those records and send us news of what's happening.
Okay.
Catch you later.
Thank you.
Okay, that's just about wraps it up here for us.